What's interesting about this is the consumer's general attitude to technology, right? Am I going to use an AI tool every day, or am I going to jump headfirst into the metaverse? It's a big share move, but I think what I find interesting about your response is that you don't find it that surprising that there is being a cutback in the metaverse initiative.
No, I really don't find it surprising. If anything, I think people will wonder why these cuts haven't happened sooner. Because I think, even though AI and social media still remain incredibly popular, the reality is that a lot of people are actually trying to spend less time on screens, less time with technology. Even our own forecast showed that next year, at least in the US, we do expect users on social media to spend less time on these social networks. And so, again, that's not to say they still don't spend incredible amounts of time on social, with AI platforms, with technology in general, but there is a bigger push to pull back. And so I think even a few years ago, it really wasn't the time for the metaverse, clearly. And I think now it definitely is not.
To recap, this reporting is according to sources, and it's 30% budget cuts for Metaverse, but that will include an element of layoffs. I'm trying to understand the difference, right? Caroline and I have both spent a lot of time using mixed and virtual reality headsets, and I've spent a lot of time using Ray-Ban Meta smart glasses, right? Through one, you access the AI, the smart glasses, voice assistant-based AI with camera. The other, you immerse yourself in a virtual world. But why isn't there a sort of recognition of the overlap of those two domains?
Yeah, I mean, there certainly is some overlap, but I think, again, that there's sort of, even when you look at Meta's business overall, right, like we are seeing how AI is helping the business incredibly so. It's helping their bottom line. It's helping their algorithms become more powerful and keep people on the platform longer. But these loftier goals, these loftier ideas around super intelligence and even the metaverse we're just still not there yet. And I think the demand isn't even quite there yet to be justifying these massive amounts of spending. I mean, we even see this with smart glasses. I will say I do think the smart glasses are having a bit of momentum. They've had some stumbles recently, but there certainly is some momentum there. But it's far from a big portion of Meta's business, and likely won't be so for quite some time. And so, yeah, like you said, there is some overlap, but I still think there's the reality of what consumers are comfortable with now versus what they're going to be comfortable with 10, 20 years from now, which is it's just really hard to predict.
Okay, Minda, let's go to, therefore, the vast amounts of money being spent on the AI focus. And that's what's got investors riled, worried about the amount of debt that's going to have to be deployed, the potential move to negative cash flow, for example. Is that wise? When you're thinking about the intertwining of AI with social media, for Meta, it really paid off because it was more effective and advertisers loved it. But what about actually our use cases and how super intelligence is going to win for their business model?
Well, yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, we are, like I said, we are seeing how AI clearly is helping their business, but I think they are stumbling a lot more with their consumer-facing ventures in this space. I mean, even recently, when you look at Meta AI, their standalone app, Meta AI has been, worked into all of their major platforms. You can use it on Instagram, Facebook, WhatsApp. But the standalone app, as of last month, only had about 3.5 million users globally. So that's, 3.5 million is a lot of people. But when you look at the billions and billions of people that use their other platforms, it's actually quite small. So again, the demand for just like a pure play AI platform from Meta is still relatively small, especially when they are competing with ChatGPT and some of these other players. And so, yeah, there's sort of the business lane and the consumer lane, and I think the consumer lane, they're really having some struggles there.
But people are really using AI within WhatsApp, within Instagram. And then there's the issue of competition and whether they're stifling it. Over in the EU, they're worried about perhaps some policy changes to what they're offering of which companies can basically integrate in the API. And it looks as though both Copilot and Microsoft and indeed OpenAI could be pulling back from WhatsApp.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I have to say I wasn't surprised to see the EU crack down on that. We've seen them kind of come down on Meta quite a bit recently. But it kind of goes back to my earlier point of when I was saying that Meta AI doesn't have that many users quite yet. That's why they're really kind of relying on putting it in their more mainstream platforms, trying to get people to use it on WhatsApp, especially, and Instagram and Facebook. And so, again, I wasn't surprised to see that they're making that push, but I'm also not surprised to see that pushback, that legal pushback that's happening, especially in an environment where Meta has really just been under the regulatory microscope lately. Here in the U.S., of course, that it recently won its antitrust trial, but when we look into next year, I think Meta, but also just social platforms in general, they're facing so much regulatory pressure at the moment.